Subscribe to PewDiePie. 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 Sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie. Sub 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 to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to sub to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe 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 to PewDiePie. Dinos Gaming, I'm going to do this until I hit 100,000 or until I die. So please share this and just share it. Just comment it. Put it on the PewDiePie subreddit. Just chuck it somewhere. I need people to watch this. I need people to be aware. I need my efforts to be noticed. I'm currently at 1,300 times 10. 1,300. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub to Pewd, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie, sub to Pewd, 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 sub to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie. This is a 10-minute break. I'm at 10-minute mark, I'm taking. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub PewDiePie, subscribe to 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 PewDiePie, sub 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 to Pewd, sub to Pewd, sub to Pewd, sub to Pewd, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe, 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 fucking subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie 2000, that's 2000 done. Alright. Subscribe to PewDiePie. Oh, well. I get some music so I can actually get through this. Subdividipa, 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 or else you're dead, subdividipa, 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 subdividia, subdividipa, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to sub to PewDiePie, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 PewDiePie, subscribe to 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 PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub subscribe to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Hello. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie, PewDiePie, sub to 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 sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub, subscribe, 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 PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Hey man, I'm at, if you want to know what number I'm at 3,500. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Yeah, you can help me out by sharing this with as many people as you know, and try and get a lot of people to know about this. That'll get me through this, because it's hard. How much time? Well, I've done, this is my third stream attempt, so I've been doing this for roughly about an hour. But anyway, I need to get back onto this. I can't really answer too many questions. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub to Pewd, 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 sub to Pewd. Nah, Tim, share this as much as you can. Get more accounts watching this. Get on your laptop and get that account watching it. Get on your phone, get that watching it. I'm sure you could still get the iPad or something, get that watching it. Just get people watching it because this needs to blow up. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subtopeds, 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 subtopedpa, 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 yeah, subtopedpa, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie. Tim, where's your other accounts? Tim, we need more people in here. Tim, just share this on like Facebook pages or whatever. Just get this out or something. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie. That's 4,000. Oh, break time. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub to feed, 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 subtweed, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie. If you like ASMR, then this is good for you. Fuck. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie. Subterfuge, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 PewDiePie, sub sub to PewDiePie, 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 PewDiePie sub to 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 PewDiePie sub sub to PewDiePie 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 sub sub to PewDiePie 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 sub sub to PewDiePie 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 PewDiePie sub to 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 PewDiePie what's the gap at sub to PewDiePie what's the gap at sub to PewDiePie what's the gap at sub to PewDiePie 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 sub PewDiePie sub to 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 PewDiePie sub sub to PewDiePie 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 sub sub to PewDiePie 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 sub sub to PewDiePie 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 sub to sub 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 PewDiePie sub to PewDiePie 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 sub to PewDiePie sub to PewDiePie sub to PewDiePie sub to PewDiePie sub 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 to PewDiePie 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 sub sub to PewDiePie 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie 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 subscribe to PewDiePie sub to PewDiePie sub to PewDiePie sub sub to PewDiePie 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 PewDiePie sub to 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 Peter Bar, 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 sub to Peter sub sub to Peter Bar, 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 sub to sub to Peter Bar, 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 sub to PewDiePie. 5,000. Sub to Peter Bar, 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 sub to Peter sub to Peter Bar, 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 sub to Peter sub to Peter Bar, 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 to Peter Bar, sub 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 sub to Peter Bar, 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 sub sub to Peter Bar, 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 sub Peter Bar, sub to 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 Peter Bar, Peter Bar, sub to 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 Peter sub to Peter Bar, 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 sub to Peter PewDiePie, sub to 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 PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 stop to PewDiePie, sub 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 to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to video, subscribe to video, subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to video, subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie. Well, we're nearly at 8,000. 8,000. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie, sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 8,000. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Every little bit helps, mate. Every little bit helps. I'm doing what I can. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. I've made it this far already, not giving up. PewDiePie, subscribe to 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 PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie. Yeah, Mr. Beast is away, you know. I'm just kind of taking his place, you know, just to make sure that there's still someone who's out there willing to do this, and I'm the one who's willing to do it. But anyway, I need to get back onto it. I need to not get distracted, or else I won't be able to get this. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Oh, what you can do is make sure this video gets seen by as many people as possible. The more people that see this, the more aware people are, and the more subs PewDiePie gets. I'm doing this all for PewDiePie, so just make sure that PewDiePie can get these subs to get the epic victory royale. That's what we got to do. That's what you got to do. You hear me? But anyway, I need to get back. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. PewDiePie, subscribe to 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 PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe. I'll turn off the light for you. I'll be back. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. This is what you get on the stream. You get a very interactive streamer right here. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe. I'm not dabbing on the stream, that's so cringe, bro. Subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe. Alright. You better sub me for that. You better sub me for that. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to. Yo, I need a phone. Damn, where's my other phone? Shit, I don't know if I can follow through with that request to play that song, man. I could try playing it through my headset as loud as you can. As loud as I can. I mean, that's the best I can do. Let's give it a go. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 Hey mate, if I've been saying subscribe to PewDiePie for now 8,000 times, I don't think I've got it wrong there. So, mate, you can calm down a bit, you know? Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. I need a drink. Subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Well, I can't do that. Subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe. Wait, PewDiePie subbed? I wish. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Oh, subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. You guys are fucks. Stop freaking taking the piss. I've been doing this for the past 2 hours. Give me a break. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Yeah, it's not just painful for you, mate. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe. to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie. Yeah, we must stay strong. It's the only way we can get through this. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie. Tomorrow night I might say T-gay 100,000 times if you're lucky. If you sub and stick around, I might give it a go saying T-gay 100,000 times. I reckon I could do that. I might cut this one off at 10,000 because I'm saying 3 words, you know. That's like, because then I'm saying 30,000 words technically. But anyway, jeepers creepers. All these comments are distracting me, gee. I can imagine how frickin' any other streamer who gets frickin' more than 10 views would feel. Holy moly. What was I doing? Oh yeah. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to holy moly, I need a drink. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Whoa, what just went down there? Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. I'm sending you to the range. I'm sending you to the range if you don't sub. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. 9,000 I'm at. 9,000, 1,000 more. 1,000 left. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe. Oh, I just need to chuck this in the comments. Subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe. Subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 subscribe, sub to Pewd, 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 sub to Pewd. Subterfuge, 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 subterfuge. Subterfuge bar, 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 subterfuge bar. Subterfuge, 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 subterfuge. Subterfuge, 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 PewDiePie, subterfuge, 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 PewDiePie, subterfuge, 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 subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 500 more. Where's the exclamation? Oh yeah, sorry you guys don't want to see my freaking fat head. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 PewDiePie, sub to 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 PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie, 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 sub to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe to PewDiePie, sub 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 to PewDiePie. 100 left. 100 left. 100 left. One 100 more. Subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie, subscribe 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 to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie, 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 sub 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 to PewDiePie. 10 left, 10 left. Subscribe to PewDiePie. Subscribe to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie. Sub to PewDiePie. 5 left. Subscribe to PewDiePie. 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 And most importantly, unsubscribe